Hey everybody, Jason Blaha here with Ice Cream Fitness. I thought I would do another Q&A. I just got an interesting email. A guy just sent me an email. I'm not going to give his name on here. I'll refer to him as Chad. And Chad asked me if because his gains have stalled, he's 19 years old, and his gains have stalled after a year of lifting, and he doesn't seem to be gaining any more weight, any more muscle, or any more strength. And he asked if it would be okay for him at his age and his experience level to go ahead and try a pro hormone to see if he can break through his plateau and if it would shrink his mushroom tip. Well, I guess, all I have to say on the last part is, if it shrinks your mushroom tip, it'll be easier for you to go balls deep. So, I mean, that's a potential plus. But as to the others, first of all, at 19 years old, your hormone levels are tremendously elevated. You're producing as much testosterone as you're ever going to produce in your life. You shouldn't need to, unless you have a medical issue and suffer from low testosterone for some reason, you shouldn't need to elevate your hormone levels in order to see really rapid muscle gains. Be making the best gains of your life. And if you've stalled at 1 year, it's because you've exhausted some of your new gains, and you have no fucking clue how to train. You have no idea how to train, and you're on a piss poor routine. You're probably using a bro split. You do go ahead and switch over to the novice routine that I've written. That is a full body routine to where you're working on heavy progressive overload and heavy barbell movements. You need to be eating more calories. Make sure you're getting enough protein. Make sure that you're eating in a caloric surplus, because if you're not gaining weight, it is because you're not eating enough. Period. No fucking ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'm just going to give you tough love on this one. You're just not eating enough. And again, I'm going to be brutally honest in this video. And watch my video, and you need to calculate what sort of caloric surplus you need to reach your goals. As to the issue of pro hormones, I am not a fan of pro hormones, even for people who decide that they no longer want to be natural. I don't judge anybody's choices of whether they choose to stay natural, whether they choose to go enhanced. I think these are choices that people have to make for themselves as grown adults. However, I am generally not a fan at all of pro hormones. I think that if someone is going to use something, they need to go ahead and just go for the real deal, and they need to go for injectable drugs. They do not need to be taking orals as a general rule, because quite frankly, oral steroids are more toxic than injectables. They elevate liver enzymes. They mess with your cholesterol more. Just generally speaking, they're more problematic and harder on your body than even injectables are. And the issues there with that is that pro hormones fall into one of two categories depending on how they're marketed. They are either an actual true oral steroid, which again has to bypass the liver and elevates liver enzymes in order to get into the bloodstream, or they are actually a hormone precursor, which the liver has to go through the same process to get through the liver, and then the liver has to convert it into the active hormone, which again puts strain on the liver. Just generally speaking, they're actually more problematic than normal anabolic steroids are, just for you in terms of just health and risk you're taking. So I mean, I think they're fucking stupid. The risks are as high as you're possibly going to get from any steroid, higher than most steroids, and they're more expensive. Just generally speaking, if you use them, you're a fucking moron. It's just plain and simple. Don't do stupid things that are going to risk your health. So that aside, the other issue there is that, again, while I absolutely believe in free choice, I believe people should do with their bodies as they please. As grown adults, I would advise strongly against someone at 19 years old from considering messing with any sort of synthetic hormone. And the reasons for that being, part of the reason before I mentioned of, your hormone levels being high enough that you're going to get less benefit anyways, and you should be able to grow with what your body is producing quite rapidly if your training and nutrition are in order. But there's also the factor that before about the age of 21, your endocrine system is not done developing as a male. And when you start tampering with it, you start doing things that are going to cause HTPA suppression, you're taking a much higher risk than you are at an older age of permanently shutting down your own testosterone production, which means if that happens, you're probably going to have to go on HRT. You're going to have to take a weekly testosterone shot for the rest of your life. So, there's that factor to consider. And then also, when people are starting at that age, there's also a much higher risk of sterility or lowering your sperm count permanently. And again, just my experience and my observation, you do not, at 18 or 19 years old, you have no clue what you want out of life. You might think you know, you might say right now, I don't want children, but you willing to, for an extra 5 pounds of muscle at that age, and that's probably all you're going to get out of it, if that you're going to keep. So is that extra 5 pounds of muscle you're going to get, 6 months sooner, is it going to be worth 5 or 10 years down the road when you're married and you decide you want to have children to find out that, you're not going to be able to father children? And I don't think at 18 and 19 years old, you really know what you want out of life enough to make that type of lifelong choice that is going to impact that aspect of your life. So again, for those reasons, I would just highly recommend against it at that age of using any sort of hormone, unless your doctor has decided you need it for some reason and they prescribe it to you. And so again, my advice on that is that if someone decides that they want to go that route and they want to be chemically enhanced, I would wait until they are at least 21 years old. They've built a good foundation. They've gotten through their noob gains. They've learned enough about training and nutrition that they'll be able to keep the gains they get off of stuff, and that you have the physical maturity and a mature enough endocrine system that you're going to potentially do less damage to your body's development. I personally just ethically cannot advocate anyone under about the age of 21 even considering something like that. So that's my take on that. And as far as the shrinking your mushroom tip, I don't know where you came up with this shit, but no, there's no reason at all any androgen of any type would cause shrinking of your penis. What you see happen is, again, due to HTPA suppression, you see in some individuals, you see atrophy of their testicles, but bodybuilders and athletes who use synthetic hormones and exogenous testosterone, they take other things to reverse that or to prevent it from happening in the first place. So even then, that's a completely avoidable side effect. But again, that's not linked at all. There's no reason whatsoever to think that anything like that would shrink your mushroom tip. So I'm not even sure where you got that. That's the fucking most stupid question I've ever heard. All right, so I hope this has been informative, and I hope I answered your question, and I hope that at 19 you don't do something stupid like go take a fucking pro hormone, and you need to learn how to train and eat correctly. Let me give you guys another bicep shot, and I'll talk to you next time.